Yep, I just started recording.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order, and we will do of the Triton Public Schools Special School Board Meeting, Tuesday, February 16th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. I'll do a roll call for attendance. Dewey Bartel,
Here.
Lloyd Henslin, is Lloyd on?
Here.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry.
Dale Jensen?
Yeah.
Jim Jensen? Wendy Kenworthy?
Here.
Misty Kubat?
Here.
And Rebecca Knudsen here. Next we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, we will discuss approved construction bids.
All right, I got a little bit of a kind of a layout of what we're going to talk about here, and broke it up into 4 sections. So the first part, we're just going to review the process. Brian can go over that. Brian Hick is here with Site Logic. Then we'll go over the actual bid tabs, the bids, and then we will go over the review letter. And then if we have any questions, we can go over those and the board can vote on that. So the first part, Brian, if you want to go ahead and kind of go through that item 1.
Sure. So when we get all the bids in, the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the contractors are their lowest bid was what we're going to look at. We want to make sure they meet the requirements of the project. What's the criteria that we're looking for? And then they have all the scope of work covered for the project. So those are the things we looked at when we got all the scopes, all the bids together. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to take all that information, we're going to put it into the bid tab, which you'll see on your screen right now. And the way the bid tab works is we broke it down into different bid packages. So if you take a look at the top, if you can you zoom in a little bit? Okay. You'll see that we broke it down into electrical, temperature controls, general construction, mechanical, test and balance, roofing, civil, and then there's a couple more on the bottom that we can hit here in a second. So, and we have the building enclosure ceiling and then plumbing fixture enhancement were the other 2 that were there. So going back up to the top, so we have the bid packages, we have the contractors within each bid package. We did not fill in the bidder address, weren't that interested in it, more interested in where they were located. The addenda that was provided was 1 through 3. Did they provide a bid bond and then their base bid, and then any alternates for the bidding would be listed in that column. And then when all that was completed, we came up with a total of the accepted bid or the bid number based on all that information. So what we found is that obviously with the electrical, we had 1 contractor that bid for us. So they're at a $262,000. Temperature controls, there could only be 1 contractor. That was Winona Heat and Vent. And then general construction, we had 3 contractors with Metcon being the low bid there. And we're happy to see numbers like this where you get a $443,000 and $443,211. That tells us we have a very good number. And even the 454,000, that's also, they're all within the amount that we would expect to see for quotes. So those are good numbers there. In the mechanical, Winona Heat and Vent, again, they're a low bid for that portion. These are a little bit more separated, but not a whole lot for $1 million worth of work. Still pretty good bids there. Test and balance, Winona Heat and Vent was the only one who bid that one, $17,000. So it's a pretty small scope of work there. For roofing, we had some pretty good competitive bidding here as well. with Blackhawk being our low bidder for this work. And then civil, if you want to zoom up a little bit, or so civil, we had a couple contractors that supplied bids. Two were disqualified. One was because they weren't at the pre-bid, meaning it was a mandatory pre-bid, so we had to disqualify them for that. And the second one is they were missing the third addendum, which was a very heavy civil addendum. So that would have changed their number. And unfortunately, they didn't have that, so they didn't have all the proper information, so we had to disqualify them for that as well. So with that said, we're looking at Rochester Sand and Gravel for low bid. And then the last two items were, this is a specialty type of contractor. So they were the only ones that bid, and they obviously would get the project. So if you go back up towards the top, so the total accepted alternates and with accepted alternates and bids, the yellow numbers in there would be the bidders that have the lowest number for all of those bids. They're with the exception of the disqualified contractor for civil. They have a line through their number, but for some reason we were showing that on that one, and I'm not sure how to fix that one yet. So unfortunately, it's yellow. But with all those numbers put together, if you scroll down a little, that comes to $4,900. I'm sorry, $4,900,000. And we had to add in, if you look down there, included in low bids calculation above, you'll see abatement and cafeteria tables with 62,000 and 39,500. We added those two numbers into the overall cost, which made it $5,007,000. That's where that number comes from. So on top of that, we added in a project contingency of $350,000, 7% of the overall bid, which brings us to the $5,358,175. Our bid budget was $6,353,310, with a difference of $900,000 that would be not spent potentially on this project. So you'll notice that throughout there are some color codes on the right-hand side of the table, and then on the bottom too, you'll see some oranges in there, and you'll see purple up above for the civil. So if you scroll down a little bit more.
I don't know if I've got that on the.
Oh, maybe that's all you can do. Okay,
I can go
so
back to the big one. Does it show up there?
you can, it was there. It was on the bottom, the very bottom.
Okay.
So you'll see the bid funding results. So what we have here is the orange and the purple are showing up again, where orange is our LTFM bond in health and safety. And then the purple is the abatement bond. So why this is important is because the funding mechanisms for each one of those is very specific. We have to make sure that for the work that's included in that, we are only spending it on that bucket, if you will, that funding mechanism. So the LTFM and health and safety, that the bond that we received minus our fee was $3,603,000. And the total bid amount was $3,412,527. So with a savings of $191,073. For the abatement bonds, we had $2,700,000 available to us, and the lowest bid came in at $1.5 million, $95,113, with a savings of $1.1 million, $54,597. So are there any questions on that?
So realistically then, Brian, what you did then is if you take the 191 and add that to the 1,154,000, that's where you get that that would be like 1.345. And then if you subtract the contingency, that's where you get this 995,135.
That's right.
And the difference between those two, the money that the LTFM money can be used for other projects. The money that we save on the abatement bonds, we cannot use for anything other than parking lots, sidewalks, parking lot lighting. So it's very limited in what we can use it for. So it's great that we're saving money, but it's not money that we have available to spend for a lot of other things. A parking lot's a parking lot. So it's great that it's going to come in cheaper, but that money that we are saving is not going to be money that we can use for other projects.
This is Dewey. I have one other question. So on the 900,000 that we're saving, is that money that we're saving also on the fees, or how does that?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
just
Brian
percentage.
adjusted the fees because originally the fees were based on the overall cost of the project, but since the project cost has been reduced, the fees have been reduced as well.
Yeah, we reduced the scope of work, so then our fees would be reduced.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So can you pull up the letter, please?
And then I this is the full letter, and then I zoomed in on the top part and bottom part.
Okay. So do you want to zoom into the top?
Yep.
Great. So this is a letter of recommendation from us. We are recommending contractors based on low bid and do they meet the criteria of the project and did they cover the scope of work? So criteria could be that they provide the proper paperwork and things like that, and scope of work and all that stuff. So we want to recommend these contractors. So Metcon for general trades. We want to Winona Heat and Vent for mechanical, test and balance and temperature controls. McMartin Electrical for electrical. Blackhawk for roofing. Rochester Sand and Gravel for civil. And then EMC Holding for the building enclosure ceiling and the plumbing fixture enhancement for a total of $4,906,140.
So on the roofing, Craig or Brian, this Blackhawk, once if like we approve this, go with them, will they be maintaining the roof then? Like, is there
No.
any warrantying the roof?
They would do the warranty portion potentially, but they would do the warranty portion, but not the maintenance.
Okay, because like
We
I
would
don't
still
know.
have the other.
Always use Eric.
We would still use them for the maintenance of our roof with the other portions of the roof. But if there was any, issues with the
But there should be
installation.
warranty on the new roof, right?
Right,
Yes.
So
right.
then, so like Blackhawk would cover that then?
Right.
The roofing company that would be replacing the roof.
Yes.
Is that like, this is Dewey, is that like a 10-year warranty or what is the nowadays?
I don't remember. I have to look at that to get you the proper answer.
Okay, no problem.
The other two items that were added in here, we put in the estimates that we hold for asbestos abatement, which is $62,000, and cafeteria tables, that's for $39,000. That's how we got up to the $5 million number before. I just want to make sure we were showing that on this so that you can understand that those two numbers are still out there, but they're included in the bid tabulation report that we just looked at.
And there was IEA that did the testing of that, and that since they found some glue underneath the library carpet that had the brown glue that's determined to be asbestos, they need to have that abated. So that's why we have the asbestos abatement. It's not a huge concern, to be honest, but since it's been found, we have to make sure that we get rid of it the proper way.
So the next step is once we get approval on the contractors, then we will reach out to them and start the notice to proceed letters or communication to them. to get them moving on the project so that they can bring in their submittal process and getting their insurance and all that stuff. And that's it for me, Craig.
Yeah, so any other questions?
I guess I have a question as far as like warranty of work. Did you look at warranties from the different companies to make sure that those are comparable as well, especially since we've got so many bids that came in very, very close?
The warranty is defined in the contract documents. It's not by the contractor. It's in the contract documents. So they all would hold the same warranty.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Dewey. Are there any other questions? If not, do I have a second?
Second, Dale.
Second by Dale. We'll do a roll call vote. Dewey,
Yes.
Floyd,
Aye.
Dale,
Yes.
Jim? Did Jim respond?
Yeah, he gave a thumbs up. Your mic
Oh.
isn't coming through, Jim, for some reason.
Okay. Wendy,
Yes.
Missy,
Yes.
and Rebecca, yes. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. So we have the next item would be the, go ahead, Rebecca.
Sorry. Discuss approve final grades 6 through 12 Triton Safe Learning Plan.
So what I wanted to do is just kind of rehash real quick. This is the slide that I had at the board meeting last week. We have made a couple of adjustments to it, but I'm going to go over those with you. The task force for the 612 met and kind of came up with some final recommendations. So I know this is sort of busy, but I'll talk you through it. The main reason, remember the main reason why are we looking at going to distance learning? You know, there's been, obviously there's been a reduction in COVID numbers, and we've had staff that's now been vaccinated. So I think the risk has reduced, but the real reason at the top is because we want to focus on the learning model change to address students that are not engaged. We have students that are struggling, albeit, and I will give our staff a ton of credit, and I told the task force team this, I think we are in much better shape than a lot of districts, and I commend our staff for all of the work that they are doing to reach out to the students that are struggling. But the fact of the matter is, when kids are here in the building, they do better in school. So looking at a way to get them back in school, we have a couple of big events kind of coming up with, and I have those in that first week. With the first 2 weeks that I have outlined here, February 22nd through the 26th. The proposal would be to have the 24th and March 3rd as distance learning days. The reason to have those as distance learning days is because we will have close to 130 staff members in the course of those 2 weeks receiving their second vaccination. According to Dodge County Public Health and other resources, there's a high likelihood that not that people get sick with the virus, but that their immune system gets kicked into high gear and people feel ill. And if we have 70 people, and let's just say it's half, if we have 30 people that can't come to work, that's a major concern. So I believe that it would be a prudent thing to do to move the distance learning day from a Friday to a Wednesday. And we would do that for both weeks because really we have 2 weeks where we had a very large, like I said, 130. It was like 70 one week and 60 another. And that's all the way from kitchen, custodian, bus drivers, teachers, EAs, everybody that works in the building. So I am concerned with trying to have school with that situation looking at us. So my recommendation is to have 2 weeks of an A/B distance learning day, BA rotation. And that would be for those 2 weeks. We were
This is
supposed-
also for elementary though, too, Craig. It's not
Yeah.
just 612. So I know you have 612 in that first slide. I just want to make sure the school board understands that it's
Yes.
for, okay.
Yes. the
Thank you, Mary,
distance-
because I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah,
Thanks.
like I said, the distance learning day that would normally be on a Friday would be on a Wednesday, and that would be for the whole district. So with those 2 weeks, that would be for the entire district. We would stick with our normal hybrid for the high school. The elementary would be in person. The big difference would be that we would have the distance learning days on Wednesdays. And the reason that we went with the AB, BA is because normally in a normal hybrid rotation, your B students would be going to school on Tuesday and Thursday. So that rotation stays the same for them. The only difference is rather than having the A day kids come on Wednesday, they would come on Friday. So that's kind of those first 2 weeks. The second piece then, after we get through those 2 weeks, we would begin on March 8th with all in person for 6th grade through 11th grade. The guidance says you can bring back 3 grades per building. And through the guidance, they said that we can classify the middle school and high school as 2 different buildings. So we would bring back the 3 grades in the middle school and the 3 grades at the high school. And that would be for 2 weeks. So it would be from March 8th through March 19th. During that time, the senior students and distance learning students, because we still have students that are distance learning, the expectation would change that they would need to Zoom in to their classes when they're not here. The senior students would still be coming to school every other day, just like they have been, but it would just be that they would be here for 2 of the 3 days or 2 of the 4 days versus all 4 days. And then beginning on just March 22nd, we would then start back with the seniors. So we would be all in person, 6 through 12, K through 12, pre-K through 12, on the 22nd. We would have in-person learning for the 6-12 Monday through Thursday, and 6 through 12 would still use the Fridays as a distance learning day. We would be able to provide the additional prep that we're required to provide for staff on those Fridays, but we would also be able to address students that are struggling. The elementary would continue to do what they are already doing. They would be in person Monday through Friday. They have 2 distance learning teachers to cover the distance learners. So we can continue with the plan that we have in place for them. So pre-K through 5 would be in person Monday through Friday. The only difference would be on Fridays. 6-12, we would have distance learning. So in a nutshell, that's the plan that I am recommending that we, the board approve to get our students back in following guidance and doing the things that we need to do. Any questions?
Mr. Schlichting, can you explain like those 2 weeks when 6 through 11 come back into the building? Are they still going to be doing that like even or odd day then even day rotation, or how is the block scheduling going to work for them?
Yes, they will be they will still be following the block schedule like they have been. And the reason that we talked about not changing that, because if we had to dial back, we would still have that in place. So we would stay in the block rotation. So students would be coming to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they would have their odd classes on Monday and Wednesday, their even classes on Tuesday and Thursday.
Also, by staying in a block schedule, it cuts down on our transition time in the hallways and the need to clean the classrooms in between classes.
I saw that the governor's coming out with guidance for 6th through 12th grade, I think tomorrow even. Since we already would have a plan in place, would that not affect us? You don't know what the guidance is.
I never do, and nobody ever does. So, I mean, that's the kicker, but I think this is a, you know, if for some reason he changes something, we'll have to readjust but I think at this point, having a plan in place to move forward, that's what most schools are doing at this point. But like I said, I don't know. And superintendents have been unfortunately left out of the loop with any of the governor's executive orders or plans.
So technically, this is not going to be considered a hybrid plan. This is full in-person plan.
Right. Good question. Yeah, because one of the issues that I, asked about when I met with the Regional Support Center was how do you classify this if we are in person 4 days a week, but still doing our distance learning day? And they said, well, realistically, you can call it either one because you are following the in-person technically, but they said we would, and really the big difference is the distancing between the two plans when you're in person versus hybrid. And the reality is the goal is to be as distant as possible no matter what plan we're in. It does reduce to 3 feet, but the thing that doesn't change is the contact tracing is still what's within 6 feet. So it's like they allow you to be closer, but they still expect you to follow the 6-foot contact tracing guidelines. So anytime you can meet that distance, it's in your best interest to do that, if that makes sense.
So then another thing is so now that our staff is going to be vaccinated, are we going to go by the new CDC guidelines, or where 2 weeks after they've been vaccinated, they're good for 3 months and shouldn't have to quarantine if they've had the vaccinations?
We still have to follow the Minnesota Department of Health guidance at this point. My hope is that they will change that. I don't know why they wouldn't, but I don't know.
Well, maybe that's what's coming up the pipeline tomorrow.
I was listening to their call today and it sounded like they're gonna start out with, even if you've had the vaccine, like still 3 months. Even if you've been fully vaccinated, still you're okay for 3 months, as long as you don't have symptoms. If you have symptoms and you're exposed to someone, you still have to go through the quarantine and that whole part, but they said so right away, it's still gonna be 3 months, so.
Yeah. And,
Well,
and
how
that's
many, how many staff chose not to be vaccinated?
I really can't answer that. All I can answer is how many signed up to get vaccinated, because and even then, I don't know if they actually showed up for their vaccination.
Sure.
That's all I can do is ask if they want it. I can't. Otherwise, then you start crossing the HIPAA line. But I have no reason to believe that that number is significantly different than what signed up for it. So I think it's safe to say that we're close to 80% of our staff.
This is Jim. I'll move to approve the learning model change.
Motion by Jim. Are there any further questions? If not, do we have a second?
This is Missy. I'll second.
Second by Missy. We'll do a roll call vote. Dewey,
Yes,
Lloyd,
Hey,
Dale? Did Dale respond? Saying something.
Yes.
Was that I think that was a yes. Jim,
Yes,
Wendy,
Yes.
Yes.
Missy,
Yes.
and Rebecca, yes. Motion carries. Can I? If there's no further business, then can I get a motion to adjourn?
Wendy moves to adjourn.
Motion by Wendy. Have a second?
Second by Missy.
Second by Missy. We'll do a roll call vote. Dewey,
yes.
Lloyd,
hey.
Dale? Do a thumbs up, Dale. Dale, did you respond? Jim,
yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Missy,
Yes.
and Rebecca, yes. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.